Thank you for joining us this evening. And I can guarantee you the next 1 hour is going to be very exciting, very knowledgeable, and there are going to be a lot of takeaways for you. Today's evening, it's going to be a special evening, considering the fact that we are going to delve in detail into an industry which has of late become the talk of the town. Yeah, you guessed it right. We are going to cover the supply chain industry over the next 1 hour with an esteemed panel of guests. And we will also talk about a special course that is being launched by IIM Vizag in conjunction with TCS iON. Okay. On behalf of TCS iON, I'm Mohan. I welcome you all to our Jobinar today. Explore your career in AI and IoT powered supply chain. Okay, for those of you who are attending for the first time, let me give a brief about what a Jobinar is. TCS Jobinars, right? It is a program through which we reach out to young, promising minds like you, and we try and give a 360-degree perspective and a comprehensive view about what's happening in a particular industry and in the job prospects of that industry. Why we have named it as Jobinar? It's of course a webinar with a very distinct focus on disseminating a lot of information around the job and career prospects of the particular industry. We have been doing it on every second and fourth Thursday of the month for some time now, and we hope we are adding value to all of you in your search for a bright and rewarding career. Now, coming to today's topic, right? Um, Operations and supply chain, they have always been a favorite and lucrative hunting ground for job seekers because it is one industry that is um, background agnostic. What we mean is, you know, anybody from any background, they can make a killing of a career in supply chain. We have seen it. The sector has become very hot with the impending boom in manufacturing India, right? You go and talk to anybody, right? In the last 2-3 years, there has been a very significant focus around, projecting India as a manufacturing base to the external world. Add to that the icing on the cake, the supply chain disruptions that China went through, right, post-COVID. It has also meant that a lot of global corporations, huge global companies are looking at India as a potential supply chain base, right? So these two are huge reasons why the sector has become very famous and hot topic in the recent times. And this is being corroborated by a lot of research reports. You can do a Google search. A lot of research reports are talking about a CAGR growth of anywhere between 10% to even up to 20% over the next decade or so. This means that, in 10 years, the industry could actually double, if not triple. Okay, that is the amount of prospect this particular industry holds for all of you. Add to that, as in any other industry, the technology, right? Technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, they are actually taking the SCM sector by storm. And this is one sector where technology plays a very key and crucial role in enabling the businesses to uh, run their operations efficiently, leading to a competitive advantage. Okay, so we are going to cover all of this and a lot more. And our esteemed speakers today will be discussing about emerging roles and career path with a specific focus on AI IoT. We will also, as I said at the start, cover in detail about a first of a kind certificate program, integrated operations and supply chain management in the digital era, that is being offered by two giants coming together, IIM Vizag and TCS iON. Without any further ado, let me introduce and welcome our esteemed panel. First I would like to introduce Professor Milan. Professor Milan is an assistant professor in the Department of Productions and Operation Management from IIM Vizag. Professor Milan earned his PhD in Operations Management from IIM Calcutta. His research concentrated on the intricacies of supply chain risk, specifically examining the pricing and sourcing strategies retailers employ. His research interests um, uh, are focused around risk management with supply chains, operational strategies, and policies in the electric vehicle sector, and the transformative role of additive manufacturing. In his teaching role, Professor Milan covers a comprehensive suite of courses spanning operations management, supply chain analytics, and supply chain finance. Welcome, Professor Milan.
Thank you, Mohanji, for
Yeah,
this invite and welcome all the participants.
thanks. Our next esteemed guest and speaker is Professor Neena Pandey. Professor Neena Pandey is from the Information System Department of IIM Vizag. Professor Neena holds a PhD from IIM Bangalore. She is an MTech in Computer Science and Engineering from IIT Madras and an MSc in Statistics from IIT Kanpur. Professor Neena's research interests lie in the technology policy domain, and she has published multiple research papers in top international journals. At IMV, Professor Neena teaches courses like leading digital transformations, internet-enabled businesses, design and management of digital platforms, and law and ethics of digital technologies. Professor Neena regularly conducts management development sessions on digital transformation initiatives across industries. Professor Neena has also published a case study on network neutrality, which is available to be distributed through the Harvard Business School Publishing, which is a very, very significant achievement. Welcome, Professor Neena.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohan. Thanks.
Thank you.
It's nice to be here. Thanks.
Now I move to Mr. Ashok Das Sharma. So a very key element of whatever TCS does has been to involve a lot of industry perspective, and Professor Mr. Ashok he brings to us a wealth of experience. He's the global head of supply chain processes consulting and IT services management and SIIM consulting in the TCS Cognitive Business Operations Division. Mr. Ashok has a BE in production engineering from Jodhpur University, and he holds a postgraduate diploma in business management from IIM Calcutta. He has done his PhD in design thinking from sister Nivedita University. He is a Six Sigma Black Belt, PMP, and a certified assessor of the Tata Business Excellence Model. He has published several articles in leading journals and authored a best-selling book called Lean Principles and Application in BPO. Ashok has also been winner of the Tata Business Leadership Award and Tata Innovista Award. Recently, Ashok has led in designing a curriculum for computer science and business systems in collaboration with leading experts from industry and academia. The course is now taught in more than 100 plus leading engineering institutes across India in the undergraduate level. A hearty welcome, Mr. Ashok. Okay, audience, there's some basic ground rules. We want this session.
I was on mute. I said thank you, Mohan, and welcome to all the participants.
Our pleasure, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we want this session to be as interactive as possible. We will try and all, because we have a lot to cover over the next 1 hour or so. We will dedicate a very good time to take your Q&A, and we'll try it will be our best endeavor to answer as many questions as possible. So please do put your questions in the chat, and we will try and answer as many as possible. Also, there will be 2-3 polls coming in between. I request all of you to please answer those polls, because it is one way for us to get to know each one of you better, right? So that we make sure that we come to you with all the relevant information. Okay, so the first thing, we want to understand all of you better. So the first poll should be coming up on your screen. Please do respond. We want to know, the constitution of the audience. So there should be a poll that should be appearing in your screen. Please do answer them. For the first time joiners, you should be able to see the poll on Slido app. For those who have joined from laptop, if Slido doesn't appear on your screen, there is an apps icon leading you to Slido button, and you can see at the bottom right corner, and you can click to respond to the poll questions. I know quite a few of you would have joined through mobile. So if you're joined from mobile, simply click on 3 dots, then click on advanced option, and then Slido to participate and share your responses.
So Mohan, we have a lot of responses already,
Right.
and 62% are from engineering background, while we have 11% from core sciences and management so far.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Considering the time shortage, we will move. So thank you, and you please keep voting because it will give us a very good perspective of you. So with this background, my first question is to Professor Milan. Professor Milan, as I spoke, right, we know there is a significant buzz around the manufacturing sector in India. The PLI sector has transformed, right? We have seen it in auto component, we have seen it in pharma, we have seen it in a lot of other industries, even textile, and it is being extended to almost all the other industries. Added to that, we know, right, we are seeing a lot of shifting of supply chain operations from China to India. My first question to you, sir, is what this means, right? All of this means to the supply chain industry in India as a whole, and how does it affect the career prospects?
So, what I'll do is let me split this answer into two parts. One is how India has moved in last 20, 30 years and where supply chain and manufacturing is right now. And second part is around how operations and supply chain domain as a field has evolved in last 20, 30 years. So post liberalization, one industry which saw maximum benefit was services. Now, while it gave a good middle class who was ready for consumption, but given India's population and potential, services do not have ability to give employment to a larger set of people. So there were a lot of economics paper also who termed it as India became post-industrialized without industrializing, which means our manufacturing sector should have grown before we would have moved majority of production towards services, something which advanced economies like America, Europe, and others have done. Now, one of the major reasons why manufacturing and related businesses couldn't evolve because of lack of infrastructure or lack of a policy which could reduce the overall cost of doing business in manufacturing. For example, if there are earlier reports available which mentioned that a truck movement average speed was only 20-30 kilometers in India compared to Europe or China wherein it was 60 to 80 kilometers per hour, which meant the goods movement was very slow. Taxation and all meant that every state had their own taxes, trucks had to wait. Now, all of this was adding to the cost, which was making our manufacturing sector lose its competitiveness in global market. Now, especially last 10 years under NDA government, they focused on improving the infrastructure. Once infrastructure was improved, it reduced the cost of moving goods within an economy. That is one of the major component. If you look at supply chain and what are the different cost distribution, logistics plays as a vital role and very important component of the overall production. So this government focused a lot on infrastructure, primarily on road. Second part, and there's a focus now in integrating all the modes of transport. That includes railways, waterways, roadways, so that a comprehensive policy can address this reduction in cost of goods movement within an economy. So at policy level, we see all these actions, all these movements that are enabling competitiveness of manufacturing sector within India. Then the second part of initiative was giving these PLI schemes, which you also talked about. What it did was now companies have some incentive to start operations, even if there are a little bit cost disadvantages. Government subsidies via PLI scheme and other schemes that are bringing in can help them become competitive. So infrastructure, these schemes that are promoting manufacturing are primarily aimed at improving the employability within the country, which is also a major part. And second part was all GST numbers. For last, if you look at 4-5 years of GST numbers, it has continuously shown improvement, which means India has consumption power. We are consuming a lot. There's decent import that we do. All of it can be replaced with domestic production and consumption can be replaced in that manner. So that is where government and government policies are broadly aiming at. Now with this, let's talk a little bit about operations and supply chain. So what happened in last 30-40 years, especially so 1970s was industry 3.0, what we know as automation era. Toyota and these Japanese companies started bringing automation, which we started moving across the world. Now we are in industry 4.0, which is based on cyber physical system. There's huge data every businesses are generating. They want to leverage this data so that decision making can become efficient, decision making can become fast paced. And Professor Nina will talk about more of development within these spaces. But today, operations have become, especially post-COVID. So let me talk for a minute around COVID. So what COVID then did was COVID resulted in global supply chain disruptions. A lot of critical supply chains, for example, medicines, which most of the supply chain was sitting in within China, semiconductor, which got disrupted, which affected multiple industries. So these disruptions then gave a feeling to governments that look, some of these critical supply chains need to be within the country, and they have identified semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, and all as critical supply chains that India needs to develop on its own. Uh, and then post COVID, there also was a broad acceptance in the world that they need a China plus one model. They cannot rely on so much production happening in China, and that is where India started playing a role. India has a huge young people who are English speaking. We have a lot of institutes that are training students. All these complement with new development in supply chain gives opportunity to this country, wherein one side government policy making is trying to improve manufacturing. There's a huge development happening in operations and supply chain field. So there is a good career prospects available to young people of exploring these developments on two sides. And when we'll talk about course, we will talk a little bit more about it. But for now, I'll close my answer here. That government has a focus towards developing manufacturing by developing huge infrastructure, improving, reducing logistics cost, giving incentives that new companies can come and start their production. Field operations have seen a lot of development post-COVID with a lot more focus on technology-enabled operations. Supply chain risk needs to be taken care. All these developments are happening. And with this, India is placed in such a manner that they can take advantage of these two developments. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Milan. That sounded like music to the ears, and thank you so much. My next question is to Professor Neena. Professor Neena, can you please tell our audience, right, how the emerging technologies like AI, IoT, they are affecting traditional SCM and operations management?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mohan, for the question. See, as Mr. Mohan told in my introduction also, I teach students about digital transformation of organizations in general, right? So in that, there are three aspects of digital transformation. One is customer experience, completely changing customer experience, and another one is coming up with newer and newer business model. The core of digital transformation still remains in transforming operations of organizations, because operations so the goal remains improving efficiency as much as possible and hence increasing margins. So now what has happened is, with all of these technologies, I wouldn't say only the latest emerging technologies, but in general, very simpler information technologies are starting from warehouse management systems or automatic replenishment systems. Starting from those, huge difference that they make, to now we are moving to these latest technologies where we are talking about, as Professor Milan mentioned, Industry 4.0, right? So technologies like IoT, which is providing us huge amount of data, so those cyber physical systems, then blockchain, and then using all of this data, using AI ML to come up with better and better insights, using these IoTs to come up with basically making cyber physical system which enables them better predictive maintenance, coming up with digital twins. If some of you have heard of this word called digital twins, which is considered basically a digital replica. So basically a model, a digital model which replicates how the supply chain of an organization works.
Wow.
And that has a significant impact in understanding the supply chain dynamics and behavior within an organization. These digital twins, they help in bottleneck discovery. Where is the bottleneck and what can be done about it? It allows you to test supply chain design. So huge amount of impact that these IoTs have. Similarly, blockchain is another technology which is having huge impact on the supply chain. You would have heard of when you will probably go through the courses, you know that there are a lot of contracts which have to be formed for these supply chains to be well oiled and working properly. So in those cases, if blockchains come in, then they enable smart contracting, they
Smart
enable
contracts.
they enable huge amount of transparency and traceability
Right.
and all of these things in the supply chain, and all of these finally leads to gaining efficiencies and hence improving margins. So huge scope of traditional information technologies plus emerging digital technologies on supply chain.
Thank you so much, Rosanna. It's so exciting, right? It's like Steven Spielberg talking, right? A digital twin. You are modeling it and you are implementing that real time. Thank you. So much is happening, right? Appreciate. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now my next question is to Mr. Ashok. Ashok ji, we heard the academic perspective on the tech disruption. I know you are at the forefront of all of this and connecting with clients on a daily basis, day in and day out. So we would like to hear from you your perspective, sir, on why all these emerging technologies are important today, and specifically how they are even more critical for a industry or a sector like supply chain and operations.
Okay, thanks, Mohan. Today's supply chain are key differentiators for companies which are competing in the global market space. Thus, the supply chain must meet multiple objectives. Objectives like high level of customer satisfaction brought through timely fulfillment, continuous cost reduction, resilience to disruptions brought by multiple geopolitical events. And of late, 2-3 years back, we have seen the century's largest disruptive event like COVID, and also adhere to the sustainable and environmental friendly practices. Now, to address these multiple objectives, some of which are at times at cross purpose, inversely proportional to each other, and satisfy the whole range of stakeholders, we need to leverage technology. When I say technology, includes IoT, artificial intelligence or AI, analytics, blockchain. These are in the forefront of the technologies that can significantly improve the efficiency and effectiveness of supply chain operations. Now, I shall come to the second part of your question, where you have asked to share some TCS examples where we have helped our client or assisted our clients or assisting our clients to leverage some of these technologies to improve performance of the client's supply chain operations. Okay, there are many examples, but I think for interest of time, I will use, instead of giving multiple examples of using IoT analytics and blockchain, etc. in isolation, I will give you an example which leverage the combination of these technologies. Okay. Now, as we know, a big share of the supply chain cost goes into the movement of material, both inbound logistics as well as outbound logistics. Now, fleet owners are constantly challenged. Fleet owners who are managing this inbound and outbound logistics, they are constantly challenged to keep the mobility costs low while ensuring the vehicles and drivers are safe, and they also need to meet the environmental standards and zero carbon targets, etc. So we have a suite called TCS DG Fleet, which is an IoT-powered AI ML suite focused on empowering our clients with predictive real-time analytics to look at the assets look at the fleets which are on the move and reduce their cost and improve their uptime. Now, I will give you some examples how it is actually brought into life or some real life examples. Now, let's talk about a global tire manufacturer which was facing lot of difficulties of proper maintenance of their tires. And these are the tires they are supplying to the large fleet owners, not like you and me going to the shop and buying a tire and then they take the money and then forget about it. It's not that. Here, the fleet owners lease the tires from these tire manufacturers.
Okay.
So it is the responsibility of the tire manufacturers to service those tires over the next few years when it is leased. Now, these particular tire manufacturers were searching for an intelligent solution to replace the manual measurements of the tread depths, which they have to do on the various tires which they have leased to this particular fleet company to check the wear and tear that is happening to the tires so that they can take periodic maintenance and so on.
Oh,
Now, the solution we have brought in is to enable the company to automatically gather data on the tire conditions such as air pressures, such as internal temperatures of the tires by putting IoT devices on these tires. These IoT devices, coupled with intelligent systems, also create cloud stores of real-time information of the location and acceleration of the individual trucks where these IoT, in which tires these IoT devices are embedded by using global positioning system. In addition, there is a RFID based tire positioning and tire rotation application which was developed, which made it possible to measure the group depth. In the past, you have to, somebody has to go with a vernier caliper and measure the group depth of
okay.
those trains. But these IoT devices will enable the group depth measurement and visual inspection also.
Oh,
Finally, there is a solution which is developed and deployed and which is using an analytic model to predict the expected remaining life of those tires. So depending on this information sent by those IoT devices back to the main system, you can say that this tire is going to exhaust soon, this tire is going to puncture, this tire is running okay, etc. And so this entire thing has resulted in the improvement in the life of the tires, thereby resulting in the significant cost reduction for this tire manufacturing company. So this, I think, is an excellent example of how we can use multiple technologies, which includes IoT, which includes this predictive analytics, artificial intelligence to improve the overall efficiency of the supply chain operations.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ashok. I mean, I know supply chain analytics is like, it's an ocean, so appreciate you sharing one of those real life instances. Thank you, appreciate. Okay, so now that was brilliant, right? We had an academic perspective, we had an industry perspective. Now just taking it from there, this is a question to both Professor Milan and Professor Nina, and I will split it into two parts, right? Um, Professor Milan, now that we heard Ashok ji, right, a very senior industry voice, I would like to know from you, how, let's say, compared to 5-10 years back, the curriculum, right, that is being taught in the colleges, how has it changed, or how is it keeping up pace with the changing industry needs? And the second part of my question is to Professor Nina. Within a given curriculum, Professor Nina, how tech is being integrated into the curriculum, and why do you think it is necessary? So over to you, Professor Milan and Nina.
So, thank you for your question. So, if I talk about IIM Visakhapatnam, we did an extensive exercise to understand what were industry needs, what our stakeholders had in mind, and based on it, we designed our vision and mission, and we put two very important points in our vision and mission. One was entrepreneurial spirit among whoever will teach, whether it was our degree program, students within PGP or other courses that we run. We should be able to talk about how entrepreneurship can be promoted, even within large organizations like say TCS. Whether if when we train somebody, they should have at least entrepreneurial spirit. They must be able to understand, identify opportunities, and then respond accordingly. Second thing, we put a little bit of stress, and in fact, decent amount of stress was on technology. We wanted to inculcate a technology-based education for all different fields. And as part of it, so the courses that Professor Nina teaches is core course for our curriculum, of all the curriculum. Entrepreneurship is a core course for our students. So we focused on these two things because we wanted and we understood going forward, India will develop a lot of startups, will need understanding of technology to use it. And now if I'll talk about operations, so for example, when we teach our PGP courses, core courses, we have included a lot of discussion around these new age businesses like quick commerce, like e-commerce. We have included part of it how operations are done. We also talk about technology requirement of those businesses as part of our curriculum. Now, if you look at 5, 7, 10 years, precisely to be more precise, pre-COVID, people were talking about theoretical ideas and how do you implement it via case studies and all. There's an added emphasis in all these things to incorporate what are the development that are happening in a field and how technology can aid all these development. So if you'll ask me, the courses that we teach, especially the operation courses, it is incorporating these new ideas when we teach to students. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll take the second part, although Professor Milan has talked about technology integration in all our courses, across all our courses. See, what we, given that we are a management school, our focus is not so much on how to write the IoT stack, because once as an organization you decide that fine, IoT is one of the solution that I will provide, my focus is not that, okay, how do you write a device driver and then how do you write a middleware and then how do you write a application over that. But our focus and what we try to tell our students is, as a manager, what are those important questions that you should ask? For example, if even if you have an IoT capability, would you want to add this capability in so you have to do a value proposition versus capability, right? Whether your customer is ready to pay you for what you are adding, right? So those kind of questions. How should the data be used? Because IoT, predictive analytics, all of this is going to use data. So if one organization has added the sensors, another organization, I'll give you an example. For example, GE has created a jet engine where it has made it IoT enabled. Now that is used by Boeing, and then it is being bought by Indigo, right? And data is generated by Indigo because they are operating the flight. They have bought the flight and they are operating it. Now, to make this product better, GE needs the data, Boeing needs the data, and Indigo also, right? So if you are doing any predictive analytics, GE can do or Boeing can do, so that the operations of Indigo gets better. So, but then whose data is it? Can Indigo just give this data to some outside organization like SAP or any organization to do the analytics? So what we focus on is the managerial questions that you must ask before taking these decisions. I'll give you another example of blockchains. For example, blockchains, everybody is talking about blockchains. But are blockchains necessary? In what are those specific cases where blockchains are going to add value? Or are there, or also giving you exposure to cases where blockchains are going to reduce value? Like if you generally use blockchain without really thinking about it, then it may not add value. So yes, I mean, we do technology, as I told earlier, huge role in supply chain management. But when we talk about it from a managerial perspective, it is very important for us to inform anybody who is an aspiring manager or who is a manager to not look only at the technology side of it, but also understand that what are the managerial questions that you should have in mind before deciding on these.
So Professor Meena has brought in a very important point, students. It is not technology for the technology's sake. It is more about, in industry parlance, we say that what is the business case of using the technology? We have to look at the business case. We have to look at top line, bottom line, and now also the green line. If one of these or two of these are satisfied, then perhaps we go for using the technology and the right technology.
Right. So I studied this production management exactly 2 decades back. I still have that book. I am sure if I'm going to compare that book with the latest book, it's all going to be Greek and Latin. I'm already feeling ancient, but I can, fantastic, right? How the academicians are enabling the businesses, and it is a cycle. The businesses are giving continuous information to the academicians to keep evolving. So thank you so much. Brilliant answering. Thank you. So now, Mr. Ashok, the next question is to you, sir, right? So can you tell our audience, give them a view into, a typical role and career path in supply chain? That will be very, very useful.
Okay. Is there a slide which I think
it should be coming up? Yes.
Bring it
Yeah.
out. So
Yeah.
before I get into the slide, I will give you um, broad brush of the, I mean, of course, before the specific of the slides, I would like to say that there isn't a better time to become, to take up a career in supply chain. Why? Because in the last 2 decades, we have seen the explosion of the demand of IT service professionals in India. I personally feel, and perhaps some of you, some of the other panelists will agree with me, that next decade will be the decade for the supply chain professionals. Why? Because India, as Professor Milan has also hinted at the beginning or some time back, that India is at the crossroads because of the China plus one strategy, because of the focus of the government of India in manufacturing, in improving the infrastructure, etc. There will be explosion of the industries in India, and what we will also see that many of the because of the improvement in ICT technology, that is further improvement in ICT technology, that is information and communications technology, we will see that many of the roles which are done from the client location in our parlance, which we call that on-site location of the Western world, can be outsourced to India further and further. And being in the uh, cusp of the industry or being in the center of the industry, we feel it day in and day out. Some of which I will give some examples. But before we get into these specific roles, let me tell you that at the top end of the pecking order, there are two roles. One is Chief Procurement Officer and another is Chief Supply Chain Officer. These are CXO level roles. That means these roles report to the CEO of a company. Now, for these roles, one needs deep knowledge of industry, functional expertise in supply chain, and appreciation and application knowledge of various technologies that which we are increasingly using in supply chain operations. However, not all of you or most of you will not be looking for the senior roles for day one. But if you start the journey now in the domain of supply chain, I'm sure with dedication and hard work, most of you will eventually get into those corner offices one day. But now let me come to the specific roles which are shown here. So the first two roles, and I will tell you how some of these roles are getting outsourced to or offshore to India, which was traditionally being used by the companies at on-site location or in-country locations in the West. So first two roles are category manager or assistant to the category manager, and then the second one is the procurement specialist. These are procurement roles or purchasing roles which are part of the supply chain. Now, what does a category manager do? What does a category manager do? Category manager means that, like, let's say, Dr. Nina talks about Boeing. As a purchaser or a category manager of Boeing, you are responsible for buying large number of items. Now, one particular person cannot be specialist in buying aluminum, which is needed to make an airplane, cannot be specialized in buying the panels. So many things goes into it, both direct and indirect material. So you have specialists who specializes in buying those particular items. So what those specialists need to know, they need to have the sourcing expertise, that from which market, which part of the world those items are can be purchased or are available at the most competitive cost and in the right quality. So category managers is constantly looking across the globe to source materials from the right location at the most competitive price at the right quantity, of course, following the environmental uh, policies and the other regulations. So those are the category managers roles. Traditionally, these roles were always are normally housed in the headquarters of the company or the plants of the company or the factories of the company. Today, we see that increasingly some of these roles are being outsourced to India. And many of you can eventually become a category manager by starting as an assistant category manager, assisting that person. Then the second role is the procurement specialist, which is actually a transactional role of raising, once you receive an indent or a purchase requisition, raise a purchase order share it with the prospective vendor, negotiate the price with the vendor, do a cost analysis, etc. For that, what you need, and in fact, for all of this role, you need a solid understanding or foundation of the end-to-end supply chain, and but more importantly, you also need technical knowledge. And in because all these roles are now driven by underlying technology platforms, and there are many technology platforms. So you need knowledge of the various procurement tools or technology platform, some of which could be SAP Ariba, Coupa, iValua, so many of them. So some amount of knowledge you need on this technology platform. But before you get into acquiring knowledge on this technology platform or certification, two things you need. You need understanding of the domain or understanding of the theoretical aspects of supply chain and how these technologies are, how the various technologies can improve the performance of the supply chain. And the next level is knowing about these platforms. And knowing about the platform will depend on which company you are going to work, because different companies use different platforms, etc. Okay, these are two procurement roles, but there are other supply chain roles. As logistic coordinator, you can work, demand planner, you can work, warehouse manager, inventory manager, supply chain analyst, transportation manager, customer service manager, so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, I will say there is a large amount of roles in the entry level, in the middle level, in the senior level. For all these roles, the skill set that you need fundamentally are understanding of the supply chain theory of supply chain, knowledge, statistical knowledge, knowledge of analysis, and then knowledge of how technology can be implemented, can be used to improve this operations of supply chain. That's in a nutshell of the various job roles and the skill sets you must look for. Yeah. Back to you, Mohan.
Ashokji, thank you so much. I think this one slide tells million stories, so appreciate, right? Anybody who's interested in a career, I request them to actually keep this as a Bible. You will get your answers. Thank you. Okay, so next, a very, I mean, I am personally very excited, audience, to announce this, right? As we spoke at the start, IIM Vizag and TCS ION, they have come together and they are launching a first of a kind program. Why a first of a kind? This is the first time, to the best of my knowledge, that a very reputed IIM, like an IIM Vizag, has come out with an offering which is targeted at students as well as working professionals, right? Usually IIMs, they cater to only the working. So I am personally very excited. So Professor Mellon, I request you to walk our audience through, some of the key features of this upcoming program. And then at the end of it, I would request Rishi from TCS ION to quickly walk the audience through, the registration formalities and the other modalities, right, when for those who are interested in applying. So over to you, Professor Mellon. And Professor Nina also, please, this question is to both of you. Okay, thank you.
Mohan, I'll talk about the journey. So Professor Nina and I, we have been thinking about launching this program for good 6-8 months. And probably TCS was the partner that we were looking for. Now, the idea was we wanted to talk about operations, we wanted to talk about supply chain, we wanted to talk about how technology can aid into these two things. Mudita, can you please just share the slide, of course. So now, what was the idea that between Professor Nina and I, we teach 3 courses in IIM Visakhapatnam: operations management. I teach supply chain management as an elective, and Professor Nina teaches a course in IS as a core course, and then there are a couple of other electives that she floats. So what we thought was that there are a lot of graduates that want to enter into this field, and they would need this bridging, a course that can bridge their understanding of technology, understanding of inventory management, and there are other concepts in operations management. But when they want to apply for certain job roles, they would need a little bit more understanding of how this field works. So with this philosophy, we designed this course, and it contains 7 modules. It has been designed in 7 modules. Mudita, can you please move ahead? Next slide. So between four of us, we have discussed this in a lot of detail, that how we believe that next decade, this decade we'll see a lot of investment and a lot of money coming in operations and supply chain field within India for manufacturing, development of manufacturing and logistics. So it's going to happen. Now, what it means is that there are going to be new job roles and job opportunities, which Ashok ji talked about already. So now the way we have designed this course is, we will come to this showing other features of this course, but I just want to talk about the designs part. Mudita, can you just go to the modules part of it? So there are 7 modules. Now, what we plan to cover in these 7 modules are, first, we'll give you a primer in statistics. Next slide, please. Then we'll talk about basics of operations management. How do you look at a operations problem? How do you analyze it? How do you identify bottlenecks? How do you create inventory so as to ensure smoother flows of products within the system? How do you design these systems so that you have a better idea? So that is what we'll cover in basics of operations management. It will be followed by a module on, next slide, please. What Professor Neena was talking about, information-based view of organization. So an organization generates a lot of data at different places. A manager should be able to harness that data. How do we put systems in place that can harness that data and use that data in decision making? Now, the beauty of today operations and supply chain and development of IoT and even simple information systems technology is, it enables you to leverage these data and make decisions in real time. You don't have to wait when data is generated and coming to a point wherein this data can be used for while making decisions. So then that will be followed by strategic considerations within operations management. Now, whenever I say operations management, I mean a firm. When a firm is trying to optimize its operations, there are some tools that they need, and then there is a strategic thinking that they need, which means what kind of competitive dimension they're chasing, whether they want to be a low cost firm, whether they want to be a expensive product based firm, but they want to meet more customer demand by doing it at a very fast rate. So there are different strategic consideration. How do you use these strategic considerations and then design operations? This will be followed by a detailed discussion on what are the basic tools that are needed to understand and analyze a supply chain. Now, when we talk about supply chain, it expands from one organization to multiple organizations that are coming together to build a product that can deliver some value. You'll have suppliers, you'll have buyers, you'll have logistics partners, you'll have warehouse partners. So all these things, all these people should come together to make something of value that customers will consume and will feel that they have received some value out of consuming a product. And then this will be followed by a module on technology use cases in supply chain management, wherein again, Professor Neena will talk about, once you expand your view from an organization to a broader supply chain, you need a little bit of tools to understand what technologies can aid into decision making, that can help different firms communicate, share data, share insights. Are there certain technologies available? Should you use them? How, if you decide to use them, how you can leverage data generation by multiple firms and bring it together in a manner that can aid all firms in decision making. As she was talking about, examples starting from GE to Boeing to Indigo. Can these 3 firms leverage same data set and make better decisions that will lead to cheaper, say, flight tickets or higher value for a passenger who is traveling via an airline? And finally, we'll talk about the broader strategic aspect of supply chain design, how all these learnings can come together and help you in designing a supply chain, whether you should design an efficient supply chain that can move a product from point A to B at the cheapest cost, or your focus is to move a product from point A to B at the fastest possible pace. There are different strategies based on which supply chains are designed. So last module we'll discuss around this. Mudita, if you can go to the first slide. Just scroll back and go to the beginning of the slide. So what we are doing here is, this is a 90 hours of experiential learning. Next slide, please. So senior people from TCS, IIM and IIM Visakhapatnam leadership, we came together, we launched this program formally on 3rd of June. So there are going to be live sessions aided by recorded sessions. We'll have community build up wherein you can go discuss with your fellow participants. You can get your queries cleared. We'll address all these queries even in our live sessions. There'll be a total of 90 hours of learning, wherein 60 hours will be live and recorded lecture in 50% and 50%. And as I've already shown you, there are 7 lectures. Key highlights are we'll use simulation to give you a look and feel of decision making in real life. We'll use cases from Harvard Business Review, a couple of cases from HBR to give you insight into what are the problems that were faced by managers, what were the decision criteria, what were the analysis that they needed, and what decisions they made. There are 3 simulations, some of them evaluation. On some of the performance of these simulations will evaluate you, some of them will help you in learning better how real world decisions appear, how can you make these decisions in a simulated environment. And as I said, followed by live and recorded lectures. Next slide, please. So broader pedagogy would be, we'll use cases, we'll use workshop mode, we'll use lecture-based lectures, we'll have some live doubt clearing sessions. And the idea is to impart a learning wherein if you are faced with a problem in real life, in a situation, once you get a job, you should be able to implement these ideas in your workplaces. Professor Neena, if you want to add something.
No, I think you've covered it well, the details about the course. So I'm good.
Thank you. Mudita, next slide.
I just want to add one point.
Please.
I think this session is, this particular course is very relevant for the freshers as well as for the experienced people. We get people in the, students join as freshers from the colleges, both engineering and management colleges. And many times we find that their learning is more theoretical. What I like in this particular training program is that there is a good blend of theory, case study, practices, simulations, etc. So I think that this will be very useful not only for the students who are in the engineering colleges, but also for the working professionals as well. So that's my reading of this. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashok. That's very kind of you.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. So we are, as Ashok we already mentioned, we are targeting both freshers, students who are in final, pre-final year, and early jobbers. Now, some people with little more experience who want to enter into supply chain or operations domain can also join this course. They'll definitely benefit from it. Now, IIMs are about standards. So we expect you to attend 70% of classes, all classes. You'll have to pass, there'll be some minimum marks that you'll have to pass for you to get a certificate of completion. It's not going to happen that you join this course and at the end of this course, you expect us to award a certificate to you. That may happen, we'll award a certificate of participation, but IIMs are a lot about standards. So we have strict standards in terms of how we'll deliver all these teaching, and the evaluations that will be a mix of quizzes, simulations, exams at TCS Science Centers. And using all of this, we'll evaluate your performance in this course and we'll award a certificate of completion in that case. You already know about Professor Neena and my profile. It is also available on this website, which will be shared at the end. You can browse through our profile. The course is priced at a very cheap price compared to other competitive products in the market. And as I told you, we have factored a lot of what we discussed in today's Jobinar. We have given a good breadth, good width to this course in terms of covering operations issue, supply chain issues, and how technology can aid into both these domains. Program start date would be 18th August. You can find detailed schedule for classes, and program is expected to end on 23rd November.
Yeah, I think Rishi, you can take over. We can very quickly walk the audience through how to register and other details. Rishi, if you're there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Milan sir. Thank you, Mohan. So I will be discussing about the student purchase flow. So as you can see, there are multiple links have been shared by Sonal and our teammates on the chat. And also on the right hand side, you can see a short URL. So once you go to that website, there will be a buy now button. So once you click on that buy now button, it will ask you for a login. So if you're a first time user, then basically you have to register by filling the basic details. So moving on to the next slide. So once you have filled this application form, which is basically your name, professional status, programming knowledge, contact details. So once you have filled, you have to click on the submit button. So here one thing you have to note down. So as IIM Visakhapatnam will be sending the hard copy of the certificates. So you have to enter the correct address where the certificate will be received. So moving on to the next slide. So once you have clicked on the submit button, so there will be a icon displaying for click to pay. So once you click on the click to pay icon, so there will be a page displaying the product and the amount. So once you click on proceed to pay, your purchase will be completed and you will be receiving a mailer notification as well as a SMS notification about your successful purchase. So as highlighted by Professor Milan sir, we are planning to start the classes from 18th of August and the inauguration or the orientation session is planned on 10th of August. So moving on to the next slide. So in case if the college or the institute are purchasing in bulk, so you need to connect with the respective institute for a license code. So once you click on activate now, so a pop-up will open where you have to enter the license code and click on activate the product. So basis that your product will be subscribed and you will be able to visit the product in the product my dashboard page. In case of any doubts, you can reach out to us on our mail ID enquiry.tcsion@tcs.com for the licenses. So over to you, Mohan, for the question and answer session.
Thanks. And a special thanks to Ashok ji. I was about to ask him, right, the industry relevance of this program. He was ahead of the curve. He already answered it. So appreciate. So guys, I know we are near
I
6.
want to add one more point, Mohan. I
Sure.
know we are running out of time. When
Sure.
we go for interviews in engineering colleges and as well as to the management colleges and look for consulting profiles from management colleges, internal operations profile from engineering colleges in the supply chain domain, we ask a lot of questions. I see many of these are covered. So it will be a reinforced learning for the students.
Absolutely. Yeah. So great, great curriculum. So guys, I think there's a very, very important announcement, probably one more very exciting announcement that we are about to make. Just to continue the fervor and just to kind of keep the momentum going, I am very, very happy to announce, and I personally thank Professor Milan for giving us his valuable time. We will have a free masterclass on the topic will be AI ML applications in operations and supply chain. Guys, this is a brilliant topic to talk about, and Professor Milan will be going pretty deep into a very specific application of AI and ML, which are the flavor of the season. So whoever is interested, a poll will come up. Please raise your hands. Also spread the news to your friends. This is free masterclass, and you will get to hear and learn things from Professor Milan, who's one of the most sought after supply chain professors in the country. So please do.
That was very
I am
kind.
interested.
Yeah,
I
even
am
me,
interested.
even me. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So yeah, I think this is all we had. I think we're at the top of the hour. But as we promised, we will take questions from you guys. So let me see the questions. The first question is from Shiva. I hope Shiva is there. So Shiva's question, and I will leave it to the three of you, Professor Milan, Professor Nina, and Ashok ji. Any one of you can answer. His question is, in general, tech will be aiding more in MRO assets. Can you brief where else IoT and AI will aid the supply chain? This is one question from Shiva. I mean, he wants specific instances where IoT and AI can be applied in supply chain. Maybe a couple of, yeah.
I can give an example. Okay, please, Professor Nina, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So MRO remains obviously the most prominent use, right? Because you are able to now do predictive maintenance, etc. But in getting the operations more and more efficient, and I'll just give you an example which we keep giving to the students. Like, so if suppose, for example, again I'm going back to GE example, where GE has manufactured an IoT enabled wind pane, right? And they have sold it to a wind energy organization, and it is deployed in the field. And so what GE says that with the data that it is collecting, it knows that which direction the wind is blowing, and hence if you change the panel's angle by this much, the energy which is now being generated is much, much more than what it would have otherwise generated, right? So this is, so it is beyond these maintenance operations where you are enhancing the efficiency to a very, very large extent. And in fact, GE is so confident of these efficiency gains that in certain cases they say that you don't pay us initially, you just pay us 1% of whatever you gain by this consulting that we will be able to give you, because my devices are now IoT enabled. So it is, a lot of it is about efficiency than only being about MRO.
Yeah, I will give an example which is not from engineering, but something which many of you will like. We have a French client who prepares foods, milk-based food, means ice cream, cheese, butter, etc. And they have a fulfillment center from where these products are being supplied to the various departmental stores and all that, mainly in the continental Europe. Now they have used IoT in the fulfillment center, and the temperature data from this fulfillment center is actually utilized to predict how soon a food product will ripen or spoil. And based on this predictive model, they guide inventory planning, and they also design promotions for soon to be spoiled items, ice creams, cheeses, etc. So they give additional discount, so those things are sold at a very fast rate. So this is a very live example where IoT devices can actually helping the company to reduce cost, and not only reduce cost, but to reduce waste also. And consumers like us can buy the same stuff at a much lesser price, which is also a win-win.
Thank you, Shokji. Next question, I think I will also answer, and then I will request, because this is something that I feel. So this is a question from Tahir Irfan, and Tahir Irfan says, basically supply chain management is about the process of converting raw material into a finished product. It is surprising to see IIM being a crucial part of this. I wish it was as simple as that, Tahir. Okay, I think supply chain is probably one of the most complex. And let me tell you here, this panel of 4, there are 3 from IIM Calcutta. Ashok ji is from IIM Calcutta, Professor Milan is from IIM Calcutta, I am from IIM Calcutta, Professor Neena is from IIM Bangalore. We have all studied supply chain and operations in IIM and also in our B, right? And the major minor, right? Operations and supply chain is probably one of the most sought after major minors in IIM Calcutta. If you ask me, my major was finance and strategy, my minor is operations. Okay. And as Ashok ji said, industry, right? Anybody who wishes to get into a managerial position in supply chain, I think IIMs are playing a pivotal role in developing that skill set. Professor Milan, Professor Neena, Ashok sir, anything that you want to add, please?
No, I think this is good.
I'll just add a small point. 80% of startups fail because of bad operations.
Right.
So
absolutely,
it's not that much of a common sense as well. It sounds, but it always helps
no,
to have
usually, Professor
professional
Milan,
training.
students tend to associate supply chain with very narrow, right? Engineers, only the shop floor. But it has actually evolved. Yeah, absolutely. But a very good question, which helped the perspective. This question, I think, could be for Professor Neena and Professor Milan. Jacob Dang has a question. Are there any project workshops in the course?
There are workshops. We haven't kept a project in this, but there are. Having said that, there are a lot of group-based activities. There are case solutions that are expected. There are simulations that will be there. There'll be other group projects that will be there, but we haven't kept a capstone project, if that was your question. There are group-based activities, especially simulations and others, but we haven't put a capstone project in it.
Sure. Thank you, sir. The next question, I think we'll take one more. Okay, we'll have a couple of more questions. This is from Tiparthi Chanti Abiram. Here, the question is, do 2019 passed out candidates, are they eligible to join this course? And I will try and rephrase that question. So Tiparthi's question is, if somebody was passed out in 2019, right, which I'm assuming they'll have 3-4 years of work ex, will they stand to gain by doing this course? Professor Milan, Professor Nina.
So we have been very honest in terms of what we are going to cover in it. And I have a rule in life. I don't make someone else's decision. So we have been very forthright in terms of what we are offering. I would suggest you go to website. You go through the detailed course outline that we have put there, assess your career goals and requirements, and see if this course can help you. Right. I know you want us to make that decision for you, or you want us to help you in making that decision, but we'll leave it to your own wisdom. Okay. What we can provide is information about the course that we are floating, which is available on the website.
I know Ashokji wants to chime in. Please go ahead, sir.
No,
then
no,
I will
sorry.
also...
I am saying that professor is not a career counselor. Professor is a teacher. That's what. So this question is relevant for a career counselor. And
Right.
Mohan, you may have some career counselors in ION. I mean, you can perhaps.
Absolutely. And you know, if I put myself in the shoes of a student, when I went through the discussion topics, you know, the curriculum and some of the topics, I feel this will be a great value add to quite a few, because some of these topics where you are going to have the simulation games, where you are going to apply a lot of technologies, group based, I feel there is value for anyone, irrespective of and you know, 4 years. I think this could be an apt course. But as Professor Milan said, the decision is yours. But I personally, if you ask me, I feel this will add value to your. It will enhance your knowledge of the whole supply chain.
If you really want to make a career in supply chain, this is definitely going to give you great value.
Absolutely.
Simple
Absolutely.
answer from me.
Absolutely.
If you want to make a career in something else, then it is not relevant, I guess.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay, we'll take 2 more questions. I know we are way ahead of the time. This is from Gopal Raj Yadav. He's saying, I am an IT student currently pursuing my MBA IT with 2 years of industry experience. For diving into operation supply chain, which specific tools or technical knowledge is enough? Yeah, I mean, this is a
very broad question.
Very broad question.
Yeah, it's a very broad question.
Yeah.
Also, I wouldn't know what are you doing in your MBA IT, but my assumption is if you are doing MBA IT, see, IT is a tool, right? IT is a tool. So if they are telling you how is IT going to make difference in finance, how is it going to make a difference in supply chain, how is it going to make a difference in making better HR related decisions, so it depends how what is it that you're doing. See, tools etc. I mean, if when you say IT, it is actually, as everybody started saying, it is broad. I hope the organization under which you are doing it is covering everything, but it may be covering IoT, blockchain, so that is sufficient.
Right. And Professor Nina, I will add just one point. I've always found in my career that, you know, people with programming technology skills, with a combination of a decent functional knowledge, they kill it. They are the ones who actually kill it in there, because you know, I am a banker. I don't know technology. I've seen a lot of technologies, you know, people who are good in technology who have learned the nuances of banking kill it, right? So this will help you gain that functional knowledge, and you know, that is where I think the competitive advantage will come. Okay, I think we'll take the last question. I think, Midita, this could be for us. This is from a couple of people, Kishore and a couple of others. They're asking, any placement assistance after completing the course? I will take this. So see, we we have added a lot of features. So people who successfully complete this program and who take the NPT, and once they score a certain percentage, right, which I'm guessing it is 70%, 75%, right? If you score 75% in the NPT, TCS ION we will try and get you at least 3 interview opportunities with leading companies which come to our platform and advertise for various supply chain roles. But that comes with a condition that you'll have to score a certain percentage in the NPT. We don't guarantee a job, but we will give you an opportunity to at least attend 2 to 3 interview opportunities. It is up to you to crack those interviews, but we will try and give you that opportunity. Okay.
Mohan,
Yes, sir.
many of us are from IIMs. No, IIM also give guarantee of jobs to anybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
IIM Ahmedabad
Absolutely.
also does not give
Absolutely.
any guarantee
Absolutely.
of jobs to anybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. I think I mean I appreciate each one of you for staying on and extending your valuable time. Team, it was a very engaging evening, very engaging discussion. I think I am personally very excited. So I want to take this opportunity to thank each one of our eminent panelists and heartfelt thanks from TCS ION. My request to the students, do check out the courses. This is probably one of the best courses available at a very, very, very reasonable price. And I personally feel that it's going to give you a lot of fillip to your career. So with that, I think any parting comments from Professor Milan, Professor Nina, Ashok ji, or else we can close the session.
No, thank you. Thank you. It was
I
a
think
good
thank
session.
you all to all participants. I think that we enjoyed this session and I hope all of you also enjoyed it as much.
Yeah, I look
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing all of you in the masterclass. Please spread the news around. Um, uh, it's one of those very rare instances where quality and pedigree is going to come knocking at your doorsteps. Please make use of that. So appreciate and thank you. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Thanks.